Hey guys, tonight we're going to slow things down and sit with a story that matters. It's about a man who didn't come to be seen. He came for something simple, something sacred, to sit quietly and to watch his daughter graduate. But what happened that afternoon didn't stay quiet for long. Before we begin, please like the video and subscribe, but only if stories like this truly move you. Comment your city and the time you're watching. Now close your eyes or don't, it's your choice. Either way, you're about to witness something real. Marcus Bellamy parks in the furthest corner of the lot away from the crowd and the camera flashes. The sun is already high, brushing the bleachers of Jefferson High's football field with that California glare that makes shadows crisp and people squint just a little harder. He steps out slowly. There's no rush in his stride, only purpose. His shoes are so polished, the dust slides off before it can settle. His medals glint once and then settle back into silence. His uniform is perfect, trimmed, button pressed. He hasn't worn it since the funeral of a fellow Marine. That was years ago, but today isn't about mourning. It's about pride. He walks past families pulling strollers, mothers fanning their faces, students darting around with tassels swinging. A woman with glitter on her eyelids points at him softly. Her husband follows her gaze. Marcus doesn't look back. He's not here to make a statement, just to keep a promise. Alana is graduating. His daughter, 18 years old, top of her class, bound for UC Davis to study biomedical engineering. Smart, stubborn, self-driven. She once told him back in ninth grade, "You never have to say a word, Dad. You just being there says everything." He remembered that. It's why he came early. It's why he's in uniform. Not to stand out, but because standing tall sometimes means not hiding what built you. The folding chairs stretch out in rows white and plastic, creaking under the slow weight of arriving parents. Marcus finds his spot near the back, not by accident. He always preferred the rear in a room. You see more from the edges. You hear what people don't say when they think you're not part of the center. He sits, straight-backed hands folded still. His eyes search the staging area, squinting once before spotting Alana's cap, fourth row from the front, dead center. He exhales once softly. Around him, murmurs begin. A few glances over the shoulder. Someone coughs and gestures discreetly. A child asks Mom, "Is he a soldier?" The mother hushes her. But Marcus is used to that. 20 years in the Marines teaches you how to hear what isn't said. The way people pull their kids a little closer. The way they avert their eyes and then glance back just to be sure. Some look with curiosity, some with discomfort. One man 3 rows ahead snaps a photo pretending it's of the field. It isn't. Marcus hears the click and doesn't flinch. He checks his watch. Still 20 minutes until the principal speaks. A group of teenage boys nearby crack jokes and take selfies. One of them tries to mimic a salute. The others laugh. Marcus doesn't react. Respect isn't demanded. It's modeled. 2 rows up, a middle-aged couple whispers. The man shrugs. The woman looks over again. Their conversation is quiet, but Marcus catches it. Feels a bit dramatic, doesn't it? I mean, full military gear for a school event. He doesn't move, doesn't shift, just keeps his eyes on the stage posture, straight, breath, steady. His medals don't rattle, his hands don't twitch. He's done this before, been stared at in diners, ignored at gas stations, thanked at airports by people who didn't wait for his reply. And yet it always lands the same way, a reminder that people often salute the idea of you, not the man himself. He could have worn a polo. He could have come in jeans. But this was about showing Alana, without needing to say it, that her father saw this day as sacred. Behind him, the crowd thickens. A school staffer carrying a clipboard bumps into a chair, apologizes, keeps walking. Loudspeakers squeal once, then settle. The brass section of the school band warms up with short staccato bursts of pomp and circumstance. Marcus blinks once, slow and measured. He's not nervous. But the uniform feels heavier in heat like this. And then it happens. 2 men approach. Not parents, not staff he's seen before. Polos tucked into khakis, earpieces curled around their ears, small Roosevelt event security logos stitched just above their left breast pockets. One is holding a clipboard tight against his ribs. The other, sunglasses still on, despite the shade of the bleachers, walks a half step ahead. They're not smiling. Marcus knows that walk. Straight line, fixed gaze, firm footing. They're not here to chat. He doesn't rise when they reach his row. Just turns his head slightly, makes eye contact. calm like someone who's done this dance before. Sir, the one with the clipboard, begins glancing down at the name badge on Marcus's chest, but never saying it could. We have a quick word with you off to the side, Marcus lifts an eyebrow. About what? The other one answers, his tone's gentler, but laced with practiced politeness. We've had a couple of concerns. Some guests have said they're uncomfortable. Marcus turns fully now. Not aggressive, not even annoyed, just direct. Because I'm sitting in uniform, clipboard man clears his throat. Just the formal nature of it. The medals, the attention. We're trying to keep the event focused on the students. Marcus leans back slightly. His voice stays low. And I'm trying to watch my daughter graduate. They glance at each other. The air around them grows thick. Conversations in nearby rows soften. The hum of the crowd begins to fade, replaced by stillness. A tension not yet loud but heavy in the chest. I'm not leaving, Marcus adds. Steady, even. The guard shifts his weight 1 foot back. Sir, we're just trying to keep everything smooth. I'm already smooth, Marcus replies. Haven't moved since I sat down. And now eyes are on them. Not just curious. Watching, measuring. People are sensing something off. He doesn't stand, he doesn't raise his voice. But not everything stays buried forever. Marcus Bellamy doesn't flinch. The security guards are still standing beside his seat, trying to stay composed, but now they feel the weight of eyes all around them. Not loud, not angry, but present. Watching, measuring every word. One of the guards shifts the clipboard to his other hand, the edge pressing into his ribs, as if it might shield him from what's quietly rising in the air. Sir, the second one says again, softer this time. If you just step outside with us, we can talk through this. I don't need to step outside, Marcus says. His voice is steady, just loud enough to carry to the rows in front of him. I've said all I came to say. He's not aggressive. He's not challenging. He's a man holding his ground the way only someone who's done it before knows how. The first guard, his badge reads T. Kessler, starts to glance around, perhaps looking for support or a higher up to hand the problem to. But he's met with something else, stillness. The kind of stillness that makes you realize you're the only one still trying to push a door that should have never been locked in the first place. I served 20 years, Marcus continues, and I came here today to see my daughter take one step forward in her life. I'm not asking for a spotlight. I'm not asking for a stage. I asked for a seat. That's it. A soft murmur rises in the rows around him. A man in a plaid shirt lowers his sunglasses. A woman with a program fanned across her lap leans slightly forward, pressing her lips together. The security guards don't reply right away. For a moment, they just look at Marcus, this man with medals across his chest, hands clasped in his lap, back straight like time hadn't aged him one day since his final salute. They came here expecting a confrontation. What they found was stillness wrapped in strength. Kessler shifts and lifts his walkie-talkie and speaks into it quietly. We may need a supervisor at Section C. Guest is uncooperative. The words feel rehearsed, like a script written for a scene they didn't understand. And then a sound breaks the air. Not a voice, not a yell, just the scrape of metal chair legs shifting on concrete. Someone standing. 3 rows up and to the left, a man in his late 40s. Tan ball cap, muscular frame, thick neck. He doesn't say a word, just stands. Eyes on the guards. Another sound follows. To Marcus's right, a man in a black shirt, trim beard, broad shoulders, sunglasses tucked in his collar. He stands too, calm, steady. Then another 4 rows forward, then 2 more, then 1 farther back. Within 30 seconds, a pattern has emerged, men scattered throughout the bleachers, all rising slowly, silently. All different builds, different ages. But one thing binds them: presence, the kind you don't earn from being loud, but from knowing how to stand when it matters. The guards stop speaking. They know what they're seeing now. Not a disruption, not a protest, a brotherhood. One of the men finally speaks. Voice even, words soft. 3rd Battalion, Fallujah, 2007. He's looking directly at Marcus, nodding once. Marcus nods back. Nothing else is said between them. Another one says Camp Bastion, 6 months behind the wire. I remember that face. And then silence again. No slogans, no chants. The security guards shrink without retreating. They don't move forward, but they also don't apologize. They're frozen in a kind of indecision that comes when you realize you mistook quiet for weakness. Just then a voice crackles from a handheld speaker. Good afternoon, families. The ceremony will begin in 10 minutes. Please take your seats. People begin to shift again, but not the men standing. They remain tall, eyes forward, unbothered by the announcement. Kessler tries one more time. Sir, we really don't want to escalate this. You already did, Marcus says, turning just enough to meet his gaze. But I'm still sitting. A few rows down, someone claps. Once. Just one single clap. Then silence again. It wasn't for a performance. It was for recognition. One of the guards, younger and clearly less seasoned, leans toward Kessler and whispers, "Let it go, man." Kessler exhales hard through his nose, nods once, then turns and walks away without a word. The younger one follows. No apology, no explanation. Just a quiet retreat. The veterans one by one begin to sit back down. No celebration, no victory lap. They simply resume their place in the crowd. But something has changed, not in Marcus. He's exactly where he was, same seat, same posture. But around him, the air is different now. Lighter, a little warmer, like the silence had finally found someone worthy to speak through. He glances down at his lap, then back up to the stage. Alana's row hasn't moved yet. She's still tucked among a sea of red and gold gowns, her cap slightly tilted. She hasn't seen what happened. Not yet. But she will. And when she does, she'll know her father never left. She'll know he stayed seated, not because he wasn't strong enough to rise, but because rising isn't always about standing tall. Sometimes it's about refusing to move. And sometimes that's enough to move everyone else. But this wasn't the end, because judgment doesn't always come from security or strangers. Sometimes it comes from a microphone, and the next voice that speaks won't be asking Marcus to leave. It'll be trying to shame him in front of a crowd. But not everything stays buried forever. There's a rhythm to these moments after the clash of breath, a stillness that doesn't settle so much as hover. The guards have gone swallowed by the crowd they no longer control, and the veterans who rose to shield Marcus have returned to their seats. But they're not distracted. They don't check their phones or reach for water bottles. They remain alert, watchful. Like old instincts refuse to rust. Marcus exhales slowly. One long breath. He glances once toward the staging area. Alana hasn't noticed anything. She's leaning slightly forward in her chair, whispering to a classmate, her fingers fidgeting with the gold sash draped across her gown. She looks calm, confident. She has no idea her father just reminded an entire field what presence really means. Then a new movement, different this time. Up near the front rows, a woman rises. Crisp white blouse, pearl clasp at the collar, sunglasses pinched in one hand, the other clutching a folded graduation program. Her hair is pinned back tight, not a strand out of place. She's not smiling. She looks like someone who waited for the right moment to make a statement. She doesn't fumble. She doesn't hesitate. She clears her throat deliberately once, twice, then lifts her voice. "Excuse me," she calls out, interrupting the last few announcements over the loudspeaker. "Before we proceed with the ceremony, I believe we need to address something." The murmur returns instantly, fast and sharp, like a ripple slicing across still water. Heads turn, conversations pause mid-word. The principal, Dr. Camille Halstead, rises from her seat on stage, her expression caught somewhere between concern and calculation. The woman in the white blouse keeps going. "This was supposed to be a day for the students," she says. "But instead, we've allowed one individual to pull focus. This is not a military event. This is not Arlington. This is a high school football field." The words cut differently than the guards' earlier requests. Those had been formal, vague. But this is judgment dressed in composure, disdain wearing pearls. Marcus doesn't move. He doesn't need to. Because before the silence can settle, before anyone else can take a breath, Dr. Halstead steps forward, heels clicking softly against the metal risers of the stage, and takes the microphone from the announcer. Her voice doesn't rise. It doesn't strain. But it's steady, and every syllable lands with weight. "Mrs. Whitlow," she begins, "we all appreciate your years of service on the board. But this morning is not about your discomfort. It's about honoring every person who showed up today for these students. And that includes fathers who've worn uniforms most of us will never carry. The woman Taryn Whitlow, known throughout the district for her opinions that often arrive uninvited, stiffens. But she doesn't sit. Dr. Halstead doesn't wait for her to. Mr. Bellamy? She continues, turning slightly toward Marcus, has not spoken a word since he arrived. He hasn't disrupted anything. What he has done is remind all of us what it looks like to show up quietly without asking for anything but a seat to witness his daughter's moment. A few claps rise from the crowd, tentative, soft, then more, and then stillness again. Taryn hesitates, mouth half open like she had more prepared, but suddenly realizes no one's asking for it. She sits. Marcus doesn't shift, but a flicker of expression passes through his eyes, something small and almost imperceptible. A quiet recognition. Dr. Halstead sets the mic gently back on the stand. She doesn't look at Marcus again. She doesn't need to. Her words did their work. Back in the crowd, the veterans who had stood earlier remained seated, but now a few lean forward, murmuring soft acknowledgments to one another. There's a current moving through them, unspoken but strong. The announcer resumes his place and adjusts the mic, clearing his throat. "Let's now begin the presentation of diplomas," he says. The band begins to play again, slightly off-key at first. The first row of students rises. Applause returns. The tension thins, dissolving slowly into the rhythm of names, handshakes, and flashes of cameras. But something lingers. Not resentment, not defiance. Something deeper. Respect. Earned, not granted. Alana's row stands. Marcus watches her. Every step she takes, every motion feels deliberate, as if she knows somewhere deep inside that something happened in her honor today. Even if she never hears the full story, she'll feel it. But before her name is called, one more man stands. He's older, gray at the temples. Wears a blue windbreaker with the faint outline of Navy insignia on the back. He doesn't speak. He just stands, hand at his side, eyes locked on Marcus. And then slowly he lifts his fingers into a salute. Not crisp, not theatrical, just firm. Real. Marcus nods once in return. No one else sees it. But for the two of them, it's enough. Because not all salutes need flags. And not all battles are fought with noise. Some are fought with stillness, but not everything stays buried forever. The heat clings to the air now, not oppressive, but lingering, like the weight of the moment hasn't fully passed. The kind of heat that settles into the seams of every suit and gown on the field, making people shift in their seats and wipe their foreheads with programs rolled into makeshift fans. But no one's moving much, not anymore. They're watching now, fully present in a way they weren't before. The names continue. One by one, students cross the stage, receive their diplomas, pose for a quick photo, and step down. Some wave to the crowd. Others burst into tears. The bleachers erupt now and then with cheers from proud families. Uncles whoop, little sisters squeal. But amid all the celebration, the energy feels different than it did before. Calmer, more grounded. People are no longer just watching their own kids. They're also stealing glances at a man in the back row who never asked to be noticed but couldn't help but be seen. Marcus sits with his gloves resting neatly in his lap, now his fingers lightly curled around them. His jaw stays still, eyes forward. But every so often, his gaze flicks toward Alana's section, counting the seats, tracking the order. Her name's getting closer. He doesn't shift in his chair, doesn't blink too fast, but his chest lifts once subtly in anticipation. Then as the last names from her row approach, another interruption. Not dramatic, not loud, just careless. A man in the far right bleachers stands. Late 40s, khaki shorts, white polo stretched across a round belly. He holds his phone high like he's filming, but then lowers it and mutters something under his breath. Only he doesn't mutter quite quietly enough. "This whole thing's turned into a circus," he says, shaking his head. "It's a graduation, not a damn honor guard." A few people nearby hear it. One woman glances away. Another father mutters, "Not the time, man." But the man doesn't stop. He lifts his voice just enough. "Can we just focus on the kids again? Enough of the uniform show." Marcus hears it. His face doesn't move. His hands remain still. But behind him, a presence rises, slow, deliberate. It's Eli Dawson. You wouldn't know him at a glance. Jeans, rolled sleeves, a clean-shaven jaw, and military tattoos that peek out from beneath the cuffs of his shirt. He stands up slowly, his frame calm but imposing eyes fixed on the man in the polo. Eli doesn't say a word. The man in the bleachers sees him, stiffens. Something in Eli's stance tells him this isn't about a reply, it's about a reckoning that doesn't need volume. The man opens his mouth, then closes it. He starts to lower his phone. But Eli isn't alone. In near-perfect choreography, 5 other men rise across the bleachers. Benito Torres, broad shoulders and a black SEAL Team 4 cap worn low. Joseph Lynn, lean quiet and stone-faced in a dark jacket despite the heat. Wes Kinney bald with arms like tree trunks calmly folding them across his chest. Malik Voss wearing aviators and a tan windbreaker, hands in his pockets. Greg Haynes, oldest of the group, weathered and steady standing, with the aid of a cane but standing all the same. They don't speak, they don't glare, they just rise one by one. The man in the polo stares at them, then at Marcus, then lowers his phone without another word. He sits, the message is unmistakable. Respect is not requested, it's commanded. And these men didn't come to clap, they came to stand for a brother. Quietly, unapologetically. The crowd doesn't cheer, there's no applause, but something shifts again, a ripple of understanding, a recognition. Not just of Marcus, but of what he represents. Of what all these men represent. Not flash, not ego, just presence, just honor. The veterans sit again just as quietly as they rose. And in that brief moment, the field doesn't feel like a school anymore. It feels like something sacred. Marcus doesn't turn, he doesn't nod, but he feels it. The way a soldier feels when his unit has his 6, when he knows without asking that someone's watching his flank. His eyes return to the stage. The announcer clears his throat, tapping the mic gently. And now, Alana Bellamy. Her name slices through the silence like a soft anthem. Marcus rises not dramatically, just to his feet, boots planted, shoulders tall. On stage, Alana appears from behind the curtain. She steps into the sunlight, half tilted slightly, robe catching the breeze. Her eyes scan the crowd instinctively, and then she finds him. They lock eyes. A moment, just one. And then the smallest smile from her barely there. She nods. He nods back. No words, no waves, just 2 people who know what the other has carried to be here. She walks across the stage, receives her diploma, and turns toward the bleachers. The crowd applauds. Her classmates cheer. But she's not listening. She's still looking at her father. The veterans behind him begin to clap. Not thunderously, but in rhythm. A show of acknowledgement. The crowd follows. Not for a uniform, not for a name, but for the quiet reminder that showing up with pride, with grace, with history stitched into your coat is something that can't be ignored. Marcus sits again, this time lighter. Alana returns to her seat, and nothing needs to be said. Because the moment has already been written, but not everything stays buried forever. The ceremony presses on, but now it floats rather than trudges. The sun creeps westward, painting the field in warm amber and shadows that stretch long across the rows of chairs. Graduates adjust their caps, fanning themselves with rolled programs. Families begin to lean forward again, hands on their knees, searching for the next name that belongs to them. But around Marcus Bellamy, the air has settled into something more permanent than heat or noise. Respect, the kind that doesn't raise its voice or demand attention, the kind that holds still in the chest long after the moment passes. He remains seated now, his back against the rigid white plastic of the folding chair metals, resting silently over his heart. Alana is back in her seat too, just 200 feet away, but she keeps glancing back. Not because she needs reassurance, because something has changed. Her father, who had never been the loudest, had never been the most visible, somehow became the center of gravity in a ceremony meant to ignore him. And yet he never stood for recognition. He stood only for her. Behind Marcus, the veterans are no longer just guests. They are fixtures, guardians. They've watched, supported, and now they simply sit as sentinels of memory, of service, of brotherhood, of moments that many in this crowd might never understand, but will never forget. And then, just as the ceremony nears its close, one final hand rises. From the front row, Principal Halstead stands again, not with a mic this time, but with quiet poise. She lifts her arm to signal the final graduate has crossed the stage. Applause thunders now. No interruption, no protest, Just families, students, and strangers clapping for completion. Marcus claps too, not forcefully, just a few soft strikes of the palm, the kind that come from deep satisfaction rather than noise. Halstead steps back to the microphone once the cheering fades. Before we close, she begins. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge not just the achievements of our graduates, but the strength of the people who raised them. We often forget the stories behind the seats, the hours, the sacrifices, the quiet. She doesn't look at Marcus, but everyone else does. We honor not just the graduates, she says, but the ones who carried them to this day, seen or unseen, known or unknown. Every step walked across this stage came from somewhere. Today we remember that. There's no applause this time, just breath, a collective intake, a knowing. Then she nods once to the announcer. The students toss their caps. A sea of red and gold lifts into the sky like a flock of paper birds taking flight. The field erupts into hugs, photos, shrieks, and laughter. Some cry. Some sprint into the arms of loved ones. Some simply look dazed as if the weight of the day is still settling on their shoulders. Marcus doesn't move yet. He watches. He lets the wave roll by him, lets the noise crest and break and recede. Then Alana, she breaks through the crowd, straight toward him. Her cap is gone. Her hair pulled back now, her eyes red-rimmed but smiling. She doesn't shout. She doesn't run. She walks just like she did on stage. Purposeful. Straight-backed. With grace, when she reaches him, Marcus stands again. Their height nearly matches now, her adulthood no longer approaching, but arrived. She stops just shy of his arms. Dad, she says softly, voice hoarse with emotion. He opens his mouth, but no words come. So she steps forward, wraps her arms around him, and pulls him in like a daughter who doesn't need answers, just presence. I saw what happened, she whispers. Some of it. He doesn't reply. You didn't move, she says. You didn't let them move you. He finally speaks. Just a whisper. Didn't come here for them. She steps back, looks up into his face. You came for me. He nods. Just once. From a few feet away, Eli watches. Not intruding, just bearing witness. He sees Marcus's hand, still in gloves, rest over his daughter's shoulder. And he smiles, not wide, but knowing. Then turns and walks away, fading into the crowd like a sentinel no longer needed. Other veterans do the same. Quiet exits, gentle nods, no fanfare. They didn't come to be seen. They came to remind the world what showing up looks like. The field empties, the bleachers clear, and Marcus and Alana stand side by side, surrounded by echoes of what was said and unsaid. What she'll remember most isn't the speech. It isn't the caps or the applause. It's that her father, who had every reason to rise, chose instead to stay seated. The story of Marcus Bellamy doesn't end on a stage or in a crowd. It ends in a quiet walk back to the truck, in the way his hand stayed on his daughter's shoulder the whole way, in how they said little but understood everything. Some men don't need to be loud to lead. Some fathers don't need to preach to leave something lasting behind. They just show up, stand their ground, and teach others how to rise without ever raising their voice. And maybe that's what this story was always about. Not confrontation, not attention, but presence. A reminder that when someone refuses to be pushed out of a moment they earned, when they stay seated with dignity, when they rise for someone they love, that's when justice quietly arrives. That's when redemption unfolds, not as victory, but as truth laid bare. Marcus didn't ask for a microphone, but he left with something louder than words.